Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Mouse Minds. We are live for you here on YouTube as well as Facebook on our Facebook page and my own personal Facebook page. And we have some special guests joining us this week, and we will get into that in just a second here. But we have a great topic for you this week. A topic that I found in my years of covering the parks that not too many people really discuss, but is a very important topic. I think I personally think so. And this week we are also going to cover real briefly here some of the news that we saw this week at the parks. Of course, we had major media events. We had basically the one at Walt Disney World, and then we had the preview of Lighthouse Key, which we saw a lot of the media attend that and go on the Disney Cruise Line to Lighthouse Key and then back, and that looked absolutely gorgeous. So we're not really gonna cover that so much of aspect of it. I'll just say it looks amazing. But other than that, I'm gonna let that slide. But we are going to talk a minute about the recent stuff that we just saw in the news this week. And I guess when I say cover, I mean just briefly glaze over what we saw and let everyone kind of give their opinions and then go from there. And I apologize for my lighting. It's absolutely horrible tonight. I don't know how to adjust it to make it better. I'm trying to adjust my camera. I apologize for those of you watching live. Now, also make sure you join our podcast. Listen for us live on Apple Music or Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast at. We are there every Friday at 5 p.m. On Friday. So you can find us on your favorite platform at 5 p.m. on Friday. So look out for that. We are always there. And this week, we have special guests joining us this week. We have Josh and Travis joining us. And say hello, guys.
Hello.
Now, the reason we have them on the show is this week, if you can't already tell by the title, we are honoring our heroes this week. The title of the show is The Rest and Relaxation for Our Heroes. And that is something that I feel like we have not, or I shouldn't say we, collectively, I have not heard a lot of people speak on. And believe it or not, there is a lot of discounts in the Orlando area for theme parks. And I mean, there's a ton. And doing research for the show, I found a lot that I didn't even know about. So there's that. And then the military and veterans and active military actually have their own resort, which is the Shades of Green Resort. And we're going to talk about that and kind of get a view of what that looks like and what it's like to stay there and what the process is and everything else. And like I said, that's a topic that I've not really seen anybody cover too much on. So it'll be really awesome for us to get here. And Travis and Josh have stayed there numerous times, and they are going to tell us all about that. And Lisa is, if you hear that noise in the background, that's Lisa joining in and out. She's having issues with her connection right now, so I do apologize for that. But she will be here too. But so let's glaze over real fast here. And I'll just give you what we had happen this week. So we had I would say three major things happen this week in the world of Disney. Number one, of course, is Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We had the media preview that and do that on there. And then, of course, we also had the new Communicore Hall open at Epcot. And then we also had the preview for the new Country Bears, the Country Bears Jamboree. So that's what we are looking at with this here. That is what we are talking about this week. So so let's kick things off. I'm gonna go to Michael real fast, just to give your thoughts on the information while I take a look at that thing that you just sent me about. And
Sure.
let me know what your thoughts are on everything that we learned this week.
Yeah. Again, I don't do drops, so I'm just going to have to enjoy the YouTube videos going on for Tiana. Country Bears, I'm curious to see what they do with that, how they're going to I mean, it sounds like they're going to keep most of it intact. It's just updating some songs, which are fine. They won't get rid of a lot of the old classics. So be interesting. I don't think that one will be too far off. So haven't seen the drone show yet myself. I'll get over there eventually.
Yeah, the drone show is actually is pretty amazing. We talked about that before. Now I don't know how the crowds have gone as far as have they gotten any better with the crowds getting out of the parks, but I would imagine they have, but obviously we haven't really seen anything with that. I haven't seen any news on that, nor have I been back that way. I need to go. I'll probably go back there soon. But there's so much this summer going on that I have to see between these three things opening. Communicore Hall, has the new character meet and greet, which looks absolutely incredible. The throwbacks in there to old attractions like the robot from Horizons and all these different things. It's the perfect place to meet our Disney friends. And then of course, we have the Country Bear Jamboree, which I'm withholding judgment on until I see it, because I'm not a fan of them taking the old songs out of the ride and using Disney songs but countrified. From what I've seen in the previews, I'm not a big fan, but I'll hold judgment until I actually see it in person. Maybe it'll be.
I hope they're not going to turn this into Food Rocks or something, which is from what you're saying.
Well, I actually enjoyed Food Rocks, so I hope that they turn it into Food Rocks. All right, and then of course Tiana's Bayou Adventure. A lot of mixed reviews on that. Of course, right now it's still in testing. So when you go on Twitter, one of the things that I want to stress is now I feel like with this attraction and with attractions in the future, we are so connected when it comes to social media, and we have cast members and people going on the ride and posting everything that happens. And what gets more views? If the ride breaks down, that's the number one thing that's going to get views. So we have a lot of people posting the ride breaking down, it going 101. Please, please, please. This is a new attraction. It has not been 100% tested yet. That's why they are doing these previews, to get the bugs out, timing, everything else. These are all things they have to put people in the boats to test. They cannot do this really any other way. So they will work this out. Please, please, please give them patience with this attraction. It is going to be awesome. I know it's broken down a few times, but even I have my own experience, because my daughter actually went to do the cast preview with a friend, and it broke down and she didn't get to ride it. But that's neither here nor there. They're working on it. They will get it fixed. The attraction looks amazing. So Michael, I don't know what you've seen. There was a full POV posted on social media. That was also something I wanted to touch on, but we'll save that for another episode, because that really, them posting that POV of the attraction really speaks to me about the future of Disney and their social media. But we'll save that for another episode, because we've got a lot to talk about here with Shades of Green and everything else. But we'll circle back to that. Well, maybe we'll save that for the next episode, because I have thoughts on that. And then, of course, last but not least here, we will talk about, I will mention that we have the new show at Communicore Hall with Encanto and everything else, which looks absolutely fantastic. So a whirlwind of 2 or 3 days. What has it been? 2 days now of media events at Disney. Kind of looking into the future. There's, a lot of things that we could say. The last thing I will say is, just based off of some of the things we've seen, I don't feel like the Play Pavilion, which we were supposedly going to get at Epcot, is actually going to be a thing. Just based off of, they've kind of downplayed it and are not really talking about it, and they're kind of ignoring that. So I would imagine we're probably not going to get the Play Pavilion as advertised. I mean, that pavilion kind of gone through multiple different things that it was going to be. Who knows what it's going to be now? But because I believe someone said that, was it the park vice president said that now that the walls are down at Communicore Hall, the update to Epcot is complete. So basically saying there's nothing else coming to Epcot. So that cancels out. I mean, we already knew the Mary Poppins ride was not going to come, which I'm really sad about. That would have been awesome. And then also, it appears to cancel out the Play Pavilion, which honestly I was neither here nor there. I just wanted to see something in that pavilion. But all right. So I'm going to move on from that, and because I want to make sure we give our guests ample time to discuss here. Now, we have Josh and Travis here, and they are experts in traveling to. I hope he's laughing now because I'm really hyping him up. But they are experts in traveling. We definitely first off, let me say from all of us here at Mouse Minds, thank you for your service, and number two. We're glad you're here to talk about this. Now, tell us a little bit. We were kind of having a discussion before we started the show, and I always love it when we have discussions before the show because it gets us rolling into the show and it gets those topics flowing. So tell us a little bit about Shades of Green. You were talking about how it's a nonprofit and so on and so forth. So kind of tell us about that.
Do you want to talk?
Well, you started it.
Okay. So Shades of Green is a facility that was originally built by Disney, and they leased it or rent it, however you want to say, to the DoD, Department of Defense. And it, go ahead, correct
The Army
me.
bought it.
She's the expert. But it basically runs at cost, which is where you get your discounts from. So basically they make enough money to pay their staff and keep the facility running. So it really affords military members, retirees, and those who can go a very affordable way, on top of being able to get tickets at a pretty good discount, probably better than just about anywhere else you could get them.
So you all deserve it too. So that's, one of the perks of coming out of the military is to be able, like you said, for the relaxation and the enjoyment. That's fantastic.
And having stayed, we did our first stay at Polynesian just about a month ago, and it really, so people will look at it differently. It's not going to be the Polynesian. It's not going to be the Grand Floridian, but they do a pretty good job of staying on par with that kind of service, what you would expect. They're very friendly. They're nice. It's clean. You get good food, things like that, which you don't get those touches of like the Polynesian. When you walk in, you get Lay's put on you, the smell of the place, people kind of just being being Disney, being that magic.
The Disney theming, there's a Mickey in the lobby, and one of the pools is shaped like Mickey, but that's about the extent of the theming there.
So it looks like, going into just jumping in here, not starting to cut you off, but it looks like just looking here that they have, looks like 5 options on site for dining. So you have an Italian restaurant, you have a buffet style restaurant, you have a sports bar, and then you have a cafe, like a quick service, and then you have a coffee shop. So I mean, those are pretty. I mean, I personally, I will tell you my history with this resort is I stayed in it when it was the Disney Inn. That was many years ago. I don't remember it, but I did stay there. But I have played golf on the Magnolia and Palm courses, which basically I think it's the Magnolia that goes right behind the resort, or they both do. And it's a gorgeous resort. I mean,
it's beautiful.
It's very beautiful.
I think probably the biggest difference, probably since you stayed there, was the addition to the parking garage. So unlike the other resorts where you kind of got to park out a ways, if you're lucky you can get close, the parking garage is like right there. So that's probably the biggest thing that's changed since you've been there.
And I believe they I forget what year it was, 91, I might be talking off, but they added another wing, which is when they added the parking garage. So when they had the Disney Inn, they had where, I guess where the lobby is or whatnot, then they had the Magnolia wing, which is still there. And then they added the palm wing and the parking garage onto that. So that whole side is actually more updated than the Magnolia side. And it's that's where a lot of the retired people like to stay, because it's away from the pools, so there is a little bit of a walk to the pools, but a lot of people with kids like to stay near the pools, next to the pools. And of course, more kids, it tends to be a little louder, because you're out there and kids are having a good time. So a lot of the retired people prefer the quieter Palm side to the Magnolia side, where all the families like to stay more often than not.
But now you have that nice option, so you can kind of determine where you'd like to go and put in the request.
Yeah.
So before we get too deep into the topic, we probably could have started here. Could you give us a little idea of, whatever you care to share about either your military service, how you got into Disney, how did it all start, and how has it evolved up till now? Are you local? What is your Disney connection?
So it started with me, which after 20 years of service, I think I was retired for almost 5 years before I even heard about Shades of Green. So I did a whole 20 years and knew nothing about it. I knew I could get tickets, but it was actually a friend of mine who's also retired from the Army who told me about it. And I thought it was a good idea. And I tried to pitch it to my wife, who, I don't want to go to a theme park. I don't like theme parks. They're too busy. So I made a PowerPoint trying to get her to invest in it. She eventually gave in, and now we own DVC, go to Shades of Green once a year. And I think we have 4 trips a year planned to Disney.
Wow.
She's running her own site now. So I pretty much work for Disney now. So
so 2 things. Number one, since we're on the topic of that, and you're a newly I shouldn't say newly, but you are a transformed Disney fan. You've been reborn. So what is your favorite park?
Not to be funny, but I tell people at work, they're like, how are you doing after you retired with any problems you have? And some people found a religion. I told them I found Disney. It's like, that's my religion. That's where I go to feel inspired, I guess. So
I mean, that's the reason why I go to Fort Wilderness, the campsite. So I 100% understand.
But yeah, it's been a good thing for me.
What initially changed my mind about going is in 2013, our son was 5. We found out that he was on the autistic spectrum. And of course, navigating the new normal and kind of learning we have 2 older children, so everything's different now. And, when we went through years where he would wear headphones all day long when he went to school, and, he was very sensitive to noises, and you never knew what was kind of going to set him off. So I decided to just start getting him out into the world and start doing, having different experiences. And that's what eventually led me to change my mind. I say, all right, well, let's do this because we're doing it for him. And we all actually benefited from it. Disney, as odd as this may sound, kind of healed us all, because you get your childhood back. Or, as when you get older, things change, it makes you feel like a kid again. And that really does something for you as an older person.
And kind of bringing it back to the Shades of Green thing, it's the small touches. So the lifeguards remembered our son. It had been a year, and we came back in, and the lifeguard remembered him and asked us how we were doing, how he was doing. They remembered that he could swim and things like that. And so those are the things that are kind of make Shades of Green Disney-like, is what I like to say, because they do things like that. They do activities around the pool for the kids, which they do at all the resorts, but they also do it over there. So they try to really mimic the experience you'll get at a Disney resort. So it makes your trip special. Like, we feel special every time we go back.
But that's starting to happen at Disney too now.
Yeah.
Something that we have found a lot of. I'm sorry, let me get this out of the way. when we went to Typhoon Lagoon, the wave pool is very, which we love, but I guess he caught his ankle. He must have twisted it or something. And one of the lifeguards was, came up and he was very, and I'm trying to explain to him, well, he doesn't communicate very well. He's like, no, my little brother has autism. It's okay. And he had him. And, we ran into a young man, we were eating at Sanaa and we went out to look at the animals. Very clearly an autistic young man, knew everything about all the zoos, told us everything about animals, told me more about my zoo here in North Carolina than I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And he now is working. The last trip we saw him again at Animal Kingdom. And so for me, that's something, not only just the experience as guests to be there, but it kind of gives me hope for my child in the future as he grows up. It's like, they give him a chance. And honestly, in society, they're marginalized and the school systems kind of give up on them. But, so it's, I don't know. I just have a warm spot in my heart for, Disney's take, I think, on special needs. And Shades of Green definitely goes along with that. They'll ask me, I think he went in with his pool shoes or something, and the lifeguard said to me, well, we really don't like him to be in there with that, but is he going to be okay? Like, they were willing to let it happen. I was like, no, he'll be fine. And he was. But they give them that little bit of leeway because they understand. And that understanding goes a long way when you have a child with special needs.
And I think there are so many families out there like that for Disney not to take those extra steps. You're turning away your audience. You know, these are the families that go.
Yeah. And, we really appreciate, like, more than I have words to explain, everything that they do for all people, with special needs. Because things, even our son is now in Special Olympics. These are things we thought he'd never be able to do. Going to Disney parks, it was something we never thought we would be able to manage, because of the crowds and the noise and all of the stimulation. But, they make it work. And
let me ask you this, because this is something that I've noticed as a trend in the last few years, is a lot of the parks becoming autism certified. I know it kind of started over here with Legoland, is an autism certified park where they have markers all over the attractions to tell you what type of, if you have sensory issues or whatever else. And then SeaWorld now is a big proponent of that. All their parks are becoming autism certified. So it seems to be, this growing trend, which I'm absolutely all for, because it helps out families like yourself. How do you feel about that?
I personally think most families already know going into it because they know their kids. So if, you'll have headphones on with you just in case, or things like that. Most parents are going to already know going into it because it's just how you live life. But it's nice to see those steps taken and that it's acknowledged by the parks. That I will say. Sure. The big thing, as far as things like that go, was like character meets. Character meets will ID special needs kids, and their interactions with them is very unique and very nice. I don't really know how else to say it, but I saw one where somebody was using sign language to speak to a deaf child. Wow. Like, it's not something you really think of a character doing, but I saw that interaction, just the interaction, because our son really likes stuffed animals. So the character costumes, he always wants to hug them. So they're very willing to hug him and you can tell they're being cautious and working with him, but it's exceptional. It's the reasons we go. So,
well, and honestly, that kind of leads to another situation too. A lot of soldiers that come out of their service or even still active duty, suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot of the same or similar, I should not say same, a lot of the similar experiences for people on autism, the overstimulation is a problem for soldiers who have PTSD. The crowds, the noise, the getting cramped in, when you spend time at war and you are alert and you don't know. I mean, there's people out there that want to do you harm. And now here you are after spending, say, 20 years of your career doing that kind of thing. And you're in a park and you're in a line and there's people all around you and it's noisy, you know, that can be overwhelming. And they've done a lot to help those guys too. A lot of accommodations, you know, and understanding for that sort of thing, which is also very much appreciated. As a matter of fact, every time we go, I write them a nice long letter and I just tell them how much I appreciate, you know, what they do for my son, what they do for military families. You know, the discounts are insane. You have Shades of Green, which runs depending on, so it's a scale depending on rank. And so the lower the rank, the lower you pay.
As with anything military, it can be very confusing.
But I'd say in the range of like 180 to 214 right now. Okay. Whereas your higher paying officers are going to pay about 214. Is it 214?
And the basic room is pretty large compared to your other Disney resorts. Like our room at Shades of Green is huge. Like we can spread out. So that's nice too.
But in addition to the rooms and the saving the money there, you have tickets, you have ticket sales on site. They have a ticket office there. The food, the restaurants, you were talking about before, you have Mangino's. They do like steaks and Italian food. So it is, say, a table service, but the price is probably about, I don't know, $75 or more or less than a typical table service at Disney. Wow. Evergreen's the sports bar. You could probably get a dinner for about $30-$35. You know, Express Cafe, you can get 2, say, Egg McMuffin type things for $7 and split them. So just all of the money saving that you get, you know. And I think they do room resorts too. Disney military resort discounts, but we've never actually.
Yeah, I in my research here, I did find that of course they do these special discounted rates for military, but they also offer the Walt Disney World military salute tickets, which are for active and retired military here. And just going off of the pricing that I kind of found here, you can do a 4, 5, or 6 day Disney military salute ticket, and the prices range from $369 to $439. So for a 4, 5, or 6 day ticket, that's a pretty substantial discount.
Yeah.
And if you buy them from Shades of Green, or even one of the military bases, they are tax-free.
Oh, wow.
The rooms are tax-free. There's no taxes, no sales tax. There's no resort fees. There's nothing like that. So the price you pay is the price that you...
Well, okay, so it went like this. What was it, 100 points? We started with 100, then it was like, well, maybe we need more. And like...
You started with the minimum to get the benefits, right?
We didn't finish the contract before we were already negotiating for more points. So I think we redid the contract almost 3 times and then turned around and bought into Animal Kingdom. So, and this is before we had ever stayed at any of the resorts.
Right. Had you visited them or you just hadn't stayed with them?
We had visited.
Yeah.
So we kind of knew what we were getting into because we'd eat at the Polynesian. We'd eat over at Animal Kingdom, so we knew going into it. But
that we liked it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty easy sell.
So now we have our long trips at Shades, and then we have week-long trips at the others.
So
see, I had the opposite experience. I was gifted the DVC as a wedding gift many years ago. Yeah, but. They gave us, he gave us for Wilderness Lodge. I had never stayed there before. I never visited it. In my head, I'm picturing this old rundown. don't know if I'm associating it with the fort or what it was, but I was not excited. I'm all right. Well, I'll take it. I'm like, can we switch? Can we buy? And then when I finally visited for the first time, like this was a solid move.
Yeah.
So, I had no idea. So I'm thrilled with it. But at least you knew Animal Kingdom is gorgeous. Polynesian, you can't beat it. You know what you're buying into.
If you're getting points of some nature you can exchange, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, and Shades of Green would be the only other way to get that kind of value that you could get. That's really it.
Well, and even when I initially looked at DVC, if you are talking about price alone, if you were talking about affordability, Shades of Green is going to come out ahead. I mean, it is. It's just, it's a lot less money than even going DVC, which is discounted, or even military discounts for Disney resorts. And so the prices are probably comparable to your value resorts, but the rooms are, I haven't measured them myself, but I've seen anywhere from 450 square feet to 480 square feet.
Wow.
They sleep 5. There's 2 queen beds and a pull out. All are comfortable. And then, you have the patio. They have...
Now, is that a specific type of... Are all the rooms like that? Or is that just a specific... Is it like a...
Does
it have like one bedroom, 2 bedrooms?
That's the cheapest room.
That's the cheapest.
Okay.
Portable. That's the standard. They do have suites, they have...
was it 4 family suites?
5 suites there, I believe.
Let me see here. I think I have a picture that I can throw up here on the live feed if you're watching.
I mean, it looks like an apartment. They get pretty big.
Really
this is what I found. Is that what it looks like?
That's a standard room.
Okay.
That's spacious.
Yes.
And too many times that TV dresser is right on top of the bed, and you have very little room to walk between the.
Yeah.
You gotta squeeze down sideways.
So
and for those of go ahead.
The deluxe studio at the Polynesian is smaller than that.
Wow.
But they use
those of you
very well.
They do use the space very well. Yep.
And for those of you who are not watching live and are listening to the podcast, I just want to describe this for you. It's basically like, I would say probably 2 to 2.5 standard hotel rooms in one. And you have looks like 2 queen beds. You have a full couch, which I'm sure has a pull-out sleeper sofa. Yeah. You have a balcony. There's a dresser with a TV. Beautiful looking fan. Very modern, clean room. Just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, how's the availability? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You gotta be on your game. Definitely in a busy
for suites.
Yeah, just in general.
So for suites, those are the hardest to get because they have like 2 bedroom, or I think one's 2 bedroom, couple or 1 bedroom, sleep 6 or more. Those you have to be on it like typically 365 days. You can rent a year out. But standard rooms, it really depends on the time of the year. Like, of course, kind of like Disney, September, parts of January, parts of early February, May. Or a little bit more open.
Well, here's something to kind of sell to the audience that you guys are going to is if somebody knows a retiree or has a friend that's in the military, so like we can rent another room when we go. So if we want to, we can sponsor a guest. Oh. So if you got somebody who's in the military affiliated somehow, and you guys want to plan a trip together, that's why it's hard to get, because people are bringing their friends, bringing their family. So you can have like almost 3 rooms, 3 those standard rooms rented. The biggest thing is you got to be there with the military member while they're there.
Sure. I'll say suddenly one vacation night is 2 or 3 rooms worth, and that cuts down the inventory.
Absolutely.
But it can be a very affordable way, because we took my mom a few years ago and we got her own room, and she was right next door to us.
And I'm gonna throw this on the screen here too, but this is kind of a layout. This is a layout that I found of the property here. And, the layout that I have on the screen here really doesn't do it justice. It is a fairly large property. I mean,
yeah, it's almost like walking in the park. Like,
yeah.
The other big discount is, so at all your resorts, you got the store where you can go buy, I don't know, snacks, beer, pop, whatever,
and gift shops.
At Shades of Green, you're basically paying what the military pays at the APs, the PX stores, which is equivalent to going to Walmart.
Shades of Green has its own exchange.
The big thing is you can't buy beer or alcohol unless you have a military ID. And the reason I bring that up is I laughed when I walked into Polynesian and saw them selling a 6-pack of Miller Lite for $18. And it stuck in my head so much. I was like, somebody's buying that.
Every night.
It wouldn't keep sounding if they weren't.
It's $8.98 over at Shades of Green.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't be selling it for $18 if you weren't getting it. So.
$8. Yeah.
So before we run out of time, could you give me just a little? So the reason why I wanted to do this, number one, and when I was going for my master's, I did a lot of research on military and education and all these other, the things that were afforded to the military. And I'm like, Shades of Green, Disney fans, I know I have, try to stay at as many resorts as they can. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, having to check them off as they go down.
Yeah.
Shades of Green is one that they will probably never get to experience.
That's true.
And I thought it'd be really awesome to hear from folks like you. And I was so thankful you agreed to come on. What's the experience? If I pull up and I try to get in, they're going to give me an actual escort back to the main road and say, hit the brakes. So you come in. What is it like? You come in, you check in. What's the process?
So just like at all the resorts, when you come up, they're going to ask, what are you doing? Are you here to check in? Now, if you have a reason to be there, and like wedding or something like that,
conference,
all you do is pre-coordinate, just like you would if you pulled up to like the Polynesian. The guy's gonna ask you why you're there. So I could pull up a military ID and say, hey, I'm just going to shop at. I'm just gonna go to the PX. They'll let me in. You pull up. It's just like at the other resorts. Valets come out, help you unload. They help you go check in. It's fairly similar. I think some people would be, if they were expecting what you get at one of the other resorts, like Riviera, the Floridian, it's not that, but it's nice. You'll have a good experience. Like us who went into it blind, I thought it was exceptional because I've stayed at many military resorts, which a lot of them are converted barracks that are turned into hotel rooms. So
yeah, I've seen these before.
Yeah, there's something.
Kind of back to what you were saying. If you were to show up and you don't have a reservation there, if you don't have a military ID, I think that they let people in to play golf because the golf course is right there. If you don't have a reason to be there, they will turn you up. But they'll do, like he said, they'll do that at Polynesian as well.
So
They'll be polite about it and be like, yeah, you gotta have to turn around and go.
Unless you're hot, and then, it is what it is.
Let me throw this here too for you guys, so you guys can, because I while we're chatting here, I found a couple images of the lobby here. I just want to throw on the screen here. So, and it looks gorgeous. I mean,
it is beautiful.
Looking at this here, we're looking at sort of, it's like got sort of a, I would say, Fort Wilderness
Lodge light is what we were talking about last night.
So this is when you pull up to the valet service that's right there. When you step out, that's your view. The lobby's actually behind that. That is actually the area. That's the lobby right there.
Okay.
You'll walk past that first picture and then you walk into this. And that's actually kind of the side view. And in the distance, I think that's the check-in area.
And there's a huge balcony on the back. There's a big fireplace. I mean, it's just really.
It kind of feels like the Wilderness Lodge, but light.
That's
And sometimes I don't want the light. I don't need Mickey in my face. Even when I stay in Vero Beach or if I drive up to Hilton Head, it's not overly Disney. You got, and I don't think there's much Mickey there, but it's nice to get away and not have that all day after being in the park.
And probably one of the unique features that you'll get at that resort that you won't get anywhere else is wildlife.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
deer, turkey.
Somebody took
ducks.
a picture of an armadillo.
I mean, they know that they are safe and they are not afraid to walk around.
And that's true because every time I played golf on Magnolia, I always at least once encounter some sort of turkey. Mostly it's turkeys that I see, but I have
lots
seen
of
deer,
Lots of turkeys.
but they don't have any fear. And speaking of turkeys, to give you another story of turkeys at Walt Disney World property, I used to stay at Fort Wilderness, the campsites, all the time, like once a month, because it was like $50 to pop a tent up. This was years ago, and it wasn't expensive, so I used to do it all the time. And one time I was doing it, and this um, turkey came past our campsite and was limping. And I called the ranger, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's a turkey limping. Come down here now and save this thing. It looks like it's near death." And the ranger hurries over to my site and looks at the turkey and says, "Oh, that's Gimpy Limpy." And I'm like, "What? Oh, she's just doing that to get food." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So 5 seconds later, she walks near the turkey. The turkey puts its foot down and just walks off like nothing happened. And it was not limping at all. I was like freaking out, thinking this thing has been, I don't know what had happened to it, and it was just pulling an act to try to get me to feed it. So
you were conned, sir. You were conned.
I was conned. Yes.
We were at Shades of Green, and I was having my morning coffee while they're slowly waking up, and we were right at the driving range. And I'm sitting there and I'm just watching, and all of a sudden, like this huge loud bang, like it sounded like somebody had shot a gun. And I stopped and I'm looking, and all of a sudden I heard him laughing. And that is when I found out that exploding golf balls are a real thing.
Oh, a nice little prank on your friends there. I'm sure the person hitting that was not expecting that either.
It was right over at the driving range area. Yeah.
Wow.
You heard all the laugh. You hear a bang, and then you just hear laughing.
A couple of other things that I wanted to make sure to mention too is Shades of Green has their own spa. They have the Magnolia Spa. Not only do they do I guess massages, facials, and the norm. They do salon and barber services, but they also do a more affordable version of Princess Makeover. And the pirate party, I think, is what they call it for the little boy.
Kind of like a bibbidi bobbidi boutique.
Way more affordable one. Yes. So that's another thing that a lot of people enjoy.
Now
that is the spa.
And I now have my own, but when I go to the parks, I have to ride an EVC because my feet are horribly destroyed. So I do not walk well. But at Shades of Green, it's really easy to get around on EVCs, and it's really nice. ECV, sorry. My scooter. My own scooter.
Oh, whatever you want. You know what you're talking about.
I got flames on it. I put pirate flags on it. It's my scooter now. But for people who go there, it's nice. They make it real easy for you to rent one. You got to rent whoever, but they'll come drop it off. And then use it as long as you need, and getting around there is a lot easier. I found the Polynesian to be a little tight to use it there, and so it's much easier to get around there on those things.
I think that specific thing has to do with when those resorts were built, because they're still from the 70s. But then again, Shades of Green was the Disney Inn, so I'm sure they've done some updating along the way. But I'm like the main lobby and things like that. I can imagine that being tight because they weren't necessarily built for the influx of ECVs that people are driving now. I think.
Yeah. Well, just getting it in the elevator, I could barely fit it in the elevator. Just to take it up to the second floor, it was that tight.
Well,
that's at the Polynesian. At Shades of Green, that's easy.
And another big difference between Shades and what we experience, even visiting Disney resorts. It's a military community, and so people are just, I guess, kind of more respectful. I don't want to make that sound in a bad way, but more understanding, more compassionate, more courteous. They clean up after themselves, If you get on a bus and one of the Shades buses and, there's an older person or somebody that's maybe pregnant, somebody will get up and actually give them a seat. You just see a little bit of a different, I don't know, I want to say camaraderie or something.
A different version of a guest. So
yeah.
we were taught in the military to leave it the way we found it and, police your own. So everybody kind of watches their kids, unlike, just letting them loose in the pool while parents go do something else.
And there's, I don't know. It was just different when we went to the Polynesian. I noticed, just at the pool, people would leave their trash, people would leave stuff, their towels and stuff. And that was one of the biggest differences I noticed between staying at the two different places. Cast members and the staff at Shades are wonderful. But the guests, it is a different vibe. It's a different feeling, and people do tend to be.
That is a very huge thing, because Michael knows, because I had this discussion with him over the weekend in our group chat for the show, that I had an experience that highlights that immensely when I went to Aquatica, because the guests that were there, it wasn't SeaWorld's fault any means. The guests that were there were doing exactly that, leaving trash everywhere. I saw just like even things like like kids' toys thrown all different kinds of places all over the water park. So and I've seen this inside the parks. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people at a counter service, just leave their trays on the tables, not knowing, or not thinking, not even having the wherewithal to put it in the trash can and bust their table like they're supposed to. I mean, I've literally gone to tables and grabbed the trash, because I feel so bad for the customers that have to put up with people that do this. And this is a big thing that I've seen change a lot over the last few years, is people just, when you go to for example, when you go to like the Art of Animation Resort, and you have these amazing, like the Lightning McQueen and all this stuff, and you see the kids climbing all over it and not a parent in sight to tell them no, and that stuff really, like, it's like that saying, we can't have nice things.
Yes.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Well, the feeling that we could, it's like, well, I paid for this, so I'm going to act like this. Like, I paid my money, so pick up after me.
I don't have to.
Yeah.
I should.
Yeah, that entitlement bit has always been a peeve of mine.
Somebody gets to do this, so they must do it. I'm like, your mama doesn't live here. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think just that military that will build character, and you instill that in people, and now you're taking that out in public, setting the example. And your children will be better behaved. It's disgusting how some people feel.
Yeah. And the way I explain it, the difference. So if you were to go over to Shades of Green, people kind of will seem like they're standoffish, but they're not. Once you get them in a group, this is a big one that I've noticed, is once you get on a bus at Shades of Green, there's a camaraderie. Like, people will start talking about their day and this and that, and there'll be good conversations that go on. Where I've gotten on a bus from the TTC that was a Disney bus to go somewhere, and it's like everybody keeps to themselves and they're staring at one another. Like,
they're just everyone. For people that are on vacation at a theme park, I mean, and I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for saying this, but they are the most upset people. Like, everything is like, especially, and I talked to Michael about this the other day, and the same thing happened to me. I mean, when I was sitting in a chair at Aquatica in a water park in Orlando, a major water park, and people are walking by just shouting obscenities and screaming at one another, and I'm like, what is going on with the world? Like, you're at a water park.
It honestly, it's kind of what we compared to. So our first trip, we actually went to Universal too. Mm-hmm. We went to Disney first, and you have cast members, where Universal has employees.
It's different.
It's just different. Big difference, and it's kind of see guests in the same way. Mm-hmm. Like at Shades of Green, you've got military members who, hey, this is a nice place, let's keep it nice, as opposed to it's spring break, let's party.
And I think there's also an understanding too amongst the military community, is everybody's kind of been through something, and so you kind of, I don't know, I think that makes people more understanding.
Yeah.
And everybody's accomplished something. You've had a career, you've done something, so kind of where everybody's at to a point.
And maybe that's what it is. It's a commonality that causes those interactions.
I think it's that, and I think too that it's you know, you guys are so appreciative, and forgive me for speaking for you, but I think it's the fact that you guys are so appreciative for what you have, that you take care of it because you appreciate it so much. And I feel like, you know, like when it comes to Disney and the way people act now, they just feel like it's always going to be there. You know, there's, you know, if they act like a fool inside the park, you know, maybe they don't feel there's going to be consequences, or I don't know what it is, but they just don't appreciate it the same way.
Well, I think you can also appreciate each other's service, whether you've been in 20 years like you, Josh, or if somebody's in there for their first year. You've all been there, you know,
well, and the spouses, you know that mother sitting across from you has probably dealt with a lot of deployments, and deployments are hard, you know, for the guys over there and for the families back home. So you kind of, you know, you've been through stuff, and so you kind of give each other a little bit of understanding.
A common understanding of the world.
Yeah, a little perspective, a little more appreciation. And that's kind of how I ended up creating the Facebook group, because social media is a nightmare. You know, people, just like what you're saying, you know, people have just so nasty to each other. And for me, it's like Disney is this beautiful, magical thing. That's not Disney. You know, so I wanted to kind of create a space that, okay, this isn't Yelp. If you want to put somebody on blast, if you want to, you know, Disney or Shades or whatever, oh, you did this wrong thing, and so now I'm going to just, you know, put you on blast. Okay, we'll go do that somewhere. There are plenty of places out there, but we're going to be over here, and we're going to be happy about, you know, we're going to be appreciative, and we're going to enjoy each other and get to know some new friends, and that's what we're going to do. You go over there and do that.
What's funny, though,
do it over there.
We were talking about before the show how Shades of Green doesn't really market itself very well. And so
that's changed, though.
It has changed, but it's funny to listen to people from the military complain about Disney not doing stuff for the military. It happens. And they are totally unaware of Shades of Green. They're totally unaware that they can get tickets at and they're like, oh, Disney doesn't do anything for the military.
Even the flag retreat, you know, and inviting soldiers to come up and participate in it. Something as simple as that means a lot.
Yeah. Oh, they had a line of clothing that they came out with last year, I think, for Veterans Day. They employ people from the military.
Disney does a lot for the military.
They really do. And again, it's appreciated. You know, those who know appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, let's do two things here, because we're getting close to that hour mark here, and there's a couple more topics I know we're going to go over, but there's a couple more topics that two more topics that I want to discuss. Number one, going back to Shades of Green, one of the things that I noticed, and this is a big deal when it comes to resorts and hotels in Orlando, because a lot of people travel without transportation. Now, Shades of Green offers their own transportation, and you can tell me better than I can, but from what I've seen, it runs pretty regularly, almost to the point as the same as the Disney transportation, which is like every 15 minutes on the dot. Now, I don't know if it's that precise, but how is the transportation getting to and from the different areas of Walt Disney World?
So it is a little different than Disney, because the transportation when you're staying at Shades, you have to kind of use a combination. Well, if you're going to Magic Kingdom or Epcot, you will take a Shades of Green bus to the ticket and transportation ticket center. I don't know. I always get those confused. To the TTC. And then you will either take the ferry or monorail to the MK, or you will go to Epcot from there. The Shades of Green bus does go directly to Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom, but that is a shared bus. They go to both. That bus goes to both. So they publish a bus schedule. There used to be a walkway. This is
we don't talk about the walkway.
The walkway that shall not be named.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. So when that happened, they added another bus, and they started running buses more frequently from Shades of Green to the TTC, especially in the mornings when people want a rope drop, because there's more traffic. So those are pretty much like every 10 minutes, whereas the other bus, you know, has to wait for it to make the cycle from Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, and then back.
So it's just one bus that's offered?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It might have improved after COVID. It got really hard.
After COVID, everything got
But
hard.
we actually, don't know. We know that they were trying to improve it, but the last couple times we've gone, we just drive.
We started.
Is it one of those things? Because a lot of the outside properties outside of Walt Disney World usually typically do like a drop off and then a pickup. Like they'll drop you off in the morning and then pick you up at night, and then that's it. Like that's pretty much is that what they offer? Or is it more than that?
No,
it's more than that. It's like the Disney bus. It's just
every 30 minutes, isn't it?
Oh, that's really good.
I'd have to go back and look at the schedule to be 100% sure, but I believe it's 30.
You're not going to wait very long.
No.
And it runs pretty much from sun up to sundown.
It runs on a strict schedule. So, and it runs throughout the day. It's all day, you know, I think it's 30 or 45 minutes for Hollywood City. It's been so long since we took the bus now. But
and you can get your scooters on, your wheelchairs on, things like that. Now they have limited space, but
especially if you're traveling with a scooter, an ECV, there's only 2 spots on the bus for a scooter. So if those spots get taken, you have to wait for the next bus. So things like that can complicate, you know, take a little longer.
But with planning, it's no problem. We achieved everything we wanted to using the bus schedule.
They don't have the funding, I think, you know, like clearly that Disney has. So they don't have as many buses. But other than that, I mean, most of anybody that's taken them is very happy with it, and it's free. That's the best part.
And of course, you can do the Ubers, the minivans, and things like that too.
I mean, to be honest, though, for a single resort to have that type of transportation, that's, I mean, every 30 minutes, that's actually quite a lot. Because you know, most of the outside properties drop you off in the morning at like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. or rope drop, and then they don't come back to pick you up until evening time. You know, that's just how a lot of them work.
And the bus drivers are extremely friendly. That's another thing I've noticed. Not to say that Disney bus drivers aren't, but the Shades of Green, there's one fellow that drives. He's very entertaining. Actually, there's a woman that does too. Yeah. Just really, really friendly, very talkative, very nice, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Comparatively, especially.
Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I wanted to use this episode as a platform to kind of discuss some of what I feel in my years of covering the park, some of the best discounts are for our active military and veterans and so on and so forth. And I have kind of a list here of things that I've researched and today, of course, and things that I've known about. There's, to be honest, there's a few parks that offer free admission for active military. For example, like Legoland, for example, offers current active duty military members can receive free admission by showing their military ID. And then SeaWorld, which I've known for years because they've always made a point to kind of acknowledge this, has their Waves of Honor program, which is fantastic because active duty military or active military, get into the park for free, as well as I believe up to 4 other people. I'm looking at my notes right here. Up to 3 dependents. They get a complimentary admission, and of course, veterans get 50% off discounts on single day tickets, which is a lot. So I mean, those 2 right there are amazing discounts that I can honestly tell you in my years doing this, no one knows about.
Yeah.
No, that's how we used to go to Busch Gardens, you know.
Yeah, years ago, we used to go get the free tickets at Busch Gardens, take the kids for a day, and go about it that way. But for military members, it's really about doing research because there really are a lot of things out there. Mm-hmm. And the 6-day park hopper, bang for buck, like you can't beat it. Like, I mean, if you break down the cost per day of what you're spending to get into a park, it's quite minimal compared to what other people have to pay.
Nice. So I have just, Rob, you good? So I wanted to ask 2 questions if I could. We keep you all night, but you're talking about transportation. How about getting from the airport to the resort?
Good question.
Mears. You can use mirrors, and of course, what is it, Tiffany Town Car? I hear some people talk about, but the most affordable is probably the Mirrors Connect, because they will deliver guests just like they will to Disney resorts. I mean, Shades of Green is right across the street from the Polynesian, so I mean, it's so close. It would be crazy for them not to.
Right.
We drive though every year, so
yeah.
So you have the luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wasn't sure if there was a dedicated service or if they had made an arrangement that we're going to take, get them back and forth, because it's key to be able to get to where you're going.
Yeah, it really is. But
well, and especially too, that's an added cost. I can tell you from I mean, I'm of course a pass member at all the parks, so I don't have to pay for parking, but I see what it costs. It's for standard parking alone, you're looking at $35 to $45 a day, just to park your vehicle. So, having that transportation is a huge savings, not only in gas, but just paying for parking alone.
Yeah.
And as a huge merchandise guy, I got to know, as far as the gift shops, what are they offering? It can't all be standard military Mickey in uniform, right? So what
actually very
what's
little.
available?
Well, I shouldn't say very little military, because they do have Army, Navy, Marine. They have like the shirts, and they have the shirts with Shades of Green on it. But they have a lot of Disney merch, so it's not the same stuff you'll find at the park. They have Disney pins that run about $5 a piece. Cute little pins. T-shirts, autograph books, stuff for your kitchen. I mean, toys. Some decent ears. They have a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. It's actually surprising how much stuff they got in a small store, to be honest with you.
And it's very affordable.
Toys, clothing, cups, umbrellas, food, beverages. It's all in a store about the size of your room.
Right, that's what I'm wondering, space-wise. So I know our listeners are everyone, but if we do have military families listening and they wanted to, join your Facebook, how can they find you on social media?
Yes.
That would be Shades of Green and Disney Military Tips. I think it's Disney Military Tips. And it's a private group, so basically, just send a join request, and I have people answer what their eligibility is, because we try to keep people who aren't eligible to stay there from being a member of the group, because it can get confusing, Well,
she went from running her Facebook group to building a website where she curates a lot of different people to kind of be a one-stop shop because there's so much information out there. So
and not all of it's good, to be honest. I mean, when you look online, there's a lot of misinformation or a lot of outdated information, and so when people ask questions in the group, I wanted something that I could go to for quick reference. Well, I read this, but where did I read it? And, Facebook has changed its formatting over the years, actually over just months. And it didn't support what I was trying to do with links. So I just ended up building a website, and that's where I take people. This is the steps. First timer want to know, well, how do I do this? Okay, you get your resort stay, then you buy your tickets, then you do this, and then at 60 days you do your advanced dining, and so
because those of us who've done it multiple times, it's like second nature. But somebody's first time, it's just like, oh my God.
And people who have gone a bunch of times, I think that we forget how overwhelming Disney, planning a Disney trip can be for somebody who knows nothing about it,
If you're walking in the park asking your question, what ride am I going to ride? You've already failed.
Yeah.
You're in trouble.
That's true, because there's so many options now, like Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and all these different things when it comes to just attractions. And that doesn't include getting reservations, because getting reservations is a whole another thing in itself. I mean, Michael knows this, I've sat in front of the computer and just refresh to try to get, the reservation that I want. I had to do that in order to eat at 1900 Park Fair when they reopened.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, it can be, even for those who know it can be extremely difficult. So
Yeah.
imagine how it is for people that don't know. So it's
Well,
You
we
have
wrote.
families that. Oops, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say you had families that visited years ago, and it's so expensive they save up, and maybe I go once every 5. They haven't been since COVID. When they went last time, the kids were tiny, and it was 10 years ago. And now you walk up. What do you mean I can't sit down and eat here? What do you mean I had to do this 2 months ago to get a? Where are we going to eat? Now I got to go eat. I have a horrible hamburger at Cosmic Rays because I can't sit down and have dinner with Pooh.
Yeah.
They don't. So
Well,
folks like you.
That was another big change. So for military tickets, they're not date based.
Oh wow.
You buy a ticket and then you go. They're tied to your resort stay, but unlike Disney, like you can change your resort stay. It's not going to change your ticket. So you still, with a military ticket, you have to get a park reservation, just like as if you have actually not just like an annual pass because you have your good to go days, but you still have to get a park reservation like everybody did during COVID. And I don't know if that will continue forever, but that's where we're at right now.
No.
And that messes a lot of people up. They're like, I didn't know I needed a reservation. So that's something I try to remind people about in the group a lot. Yeah, you have to have that. You might get in trouble if you show up, especially Magic Kingdom on the weekends, because sometimes, you can't get in there.
I have one other question that I just thought of before we kind of wrap things up here. And speaking of other parks in Orlando, because Orlando, of course, is a lot more than just Disney. We have SeaWorld, we have Universal, obviously.
Nope, that's only Disney. That's the only park I know of.
Well, I completely understand that sentiment, but I happen to enjoy Universal a little bit, and I enjoy SeaWorld for that matter
Harry
too.
Potter stuff. That's pretty cool.
And Jurassic Park Velocicoaster is an amazing attraction.
It was all closed. That was my big complaint. We're big. My older kids grew up with Jurassic. My daughter moved to Hawaii. We visited Kualoa Ranch where they filmed some.
Oh yeah,
super cool.
Bar.
We get to Universal and it that whole area was closed. Yeah, we didn't experience any of that. So
well, I'd say give it another chance because I've been there recently and it was all open and it was amazing. So but do they but back to my question. Do they provide transportation outside of Disney, or is it like when you're in the Disney bubble, you're in the Disney bubble?
You're in the bubble.
Okay. That makes sense.
An Uber or something like that if you want to go.
I actually have a saying that we picked up when we used to go to the beach. It's like one of the movies, don't get off the boat. You don't leave the resort. When you show up, you don't leave the resort until you go back home. So we don't leave the bubble. We stay in the bubble when we're there.
Nice. And I think that's part of why Disney started charging temporarily for parking, because they'd rather you not rent a car. And without a car now, you can't get to Universal. You can't go to SeaWorld because and they used to, pick you up for free from the airport and you didn't need a car. And they would take you here and they'd take you back for free and everything was wonderful. And I can't go see Universal. I can't go experience Harry Potter. And you're missing out sometimes. But this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I will say the Harry Potter thing is amazing, though.
Yeah. It really is.
And honestly, the just to piggyback off of that, even if you are not a fan of Harry Potter or do not know the movies or have read the books, it is still amazing.
Even I wasn't a fan, and even I walked in here like, wow, this is cool.
I had the books. I had not read them. I bought them for my daughter. And I had kind of half watched the movie. So I wasn't a fan, but I really enjoyed it. But now with my youngest son, we've been reading the books. And so, that's probably what's going to take me back because now I am a big fan. The books are really good.
I'm doing the same plan with my daughter. We're actually reading the first book together and we're going to go through because I feel like she just reached the age where she can truly appreciate all the rides that Universal has to offer. So that was part of that, getting her more into books by seeing the worlds and getting her excited in there. So I totally understand that 100%. All right. So I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. Michael, did you have anything left that you wanted to say before I wrap things up?
I just went in again. I apologize for for that first random message. But this has been awesome. You were fantastic, and it means so much to me that you both decided to come on instead of handing it off to somebody. You guys were amazing. You did fantastic.
Thanks so much for including us. My first inclination was to give you someone that had a lot more experience than I did. But yeah, this has been great.
It's less about experience and more about personality. You guys you're both gems. So thank you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate you guys coming on here. Now, I want to make sure that we accurately plug everything that you guys are doing right now with this, because I personally feel like this is very important information because a lot of people don't know. So, if you could, I know you mentioned the website and the Facebook group. I'm sure you've already mentioned them. I know you've already mentioned them, but if you could mention them again, so that way we get that plug in there for you.
And we'll put you in the show notes as well.
We have I have the Shades of Green and Disney tips for the military, and then I also did a kind of a mainstream group, Disney planning secrets and tips, because sometimes there are people that have family members that don't just go to the military stuff. So I wanted to have something a little different for Disney resorts and stuff like that. And then the website is magicalmousecommand.com.
And make sure you put magical, because if you put magic mouse, you're going to get something about Mac mouse.
Yeah, I know exactly what that is. I should hold up my mouse. I have one.
I have one too.
So it's magical mouse command if you're looking for it.
I'm pulling it up. I see it right here. I got it right on the screen here. Let me see if I can show you guys real fast here, but I have it up here on my screen here. Let me see if I can.
The amazing thing is almost all of the photos on here were taken by her.
Oh wow. The title, like the main shot here is incredible. So
and I would rather see that than stock photos. You can get stock photos anywhere. If you can take your own and make your website your own, you own it.
Exactly. And the other thing, a lot of these websites, they're very noisy. There's things popping up, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm 50. I just want to read some stuff. Don't bother me.
I just want to know how to do this.
So yeah, I just paid for it out of pocket, and I'm like, this is what I'm doing. It's on my terms.
Right. No, no sponsorships, no ads all over the place. And wow, that's a nice
I don't know if
shot.
you guys can see that, but that is the main screen right there. Let me see.
One of my favorite places to be. Right in front of the
And then of course you can see the military stuff, Disney resorts. So this is an excellent website for you guys to be checking out. I love the scooter and stroller rentals. That's a big one. People, there's so many companies now, knowing who to go with is a big deal. So,
and the woman there, her name is Kayla Castro. She's the only travel advisor that I work with right now. She specializes in special needs. So that's kind of how we made acquaintance, because her son is also on the spectrum. So in addition to the military, you kind of have a special needs community too, So it's just interesting, how how things have evolved.
It's great for you, though. And we thank you for building all this. So.
Well,
any of these resources and they're free. We're not asking you to pay $15 a month to join to have access.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. And when so there's a website, his name is Steve Bell, Military Disney Tips. He's the original OG. He's the guy who started the, Military Disney website. And I sent him a message, and I asked him, and usually when somebody's asking you for something, you're like, okay, what do you want? And I said, well, would you mind if I shared your links on my page? I'm not asking you for anything. I just want to help people find information. And he's been very helpful, as a matter of fact, one of my admins, had messaged me in the group, and she asked if I cared if, she posted stuff. She's a content creator for Happily Ever Park Hoppers. Then I asked another person to admin the group. She does Battleground Biscuits, that is all military content, military Disney content. And so, I mean, they've become very good friends. We talk, every single day. And none of this would have ever happened without Disney. It's super cool. It's been wonderful.
I can imagine how terrible it is to have some random stranger message you on Facebook out of nowhere to ask a favor.
Yeah, I was probably a little hesitant at first. I'm like, who is this? Is it a scam? Because
right.
You see that face and you immediately think scam. That's what I thought too. Well, I'm not the only one who thought that.
We got approached in the park just because somebody ID'd my scooter.
Yeah, his scooter with the stickers got recognized at Hollywood Studios.
Well, you know what that means, and that means the scooter needs its own Instagram. I mean, you're missing out on a golden opportunity here.
Well, it's funny if you look at the side; it's actually called Bad Duck, and it's an old World War II artwork where Donald Duck's carrying this bomb kind of thing. So it's actually, we nicknamed it Bad Duck.
Nice.
Bad Duck.
Well, I did.
That's all you, baby.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap this show up here. It's been a pleasure speaking with you guys. Thank you again for joining us this week. One thing I wanted to say, before we wrap this up here is, number one, to everyone who has served active military or veterans, thank you for your service. We truly appreciate it. That's why I do this show, because I am grateful for the sacrifices that you guys, do for this country and for me. I mean, when you think down to it, you guys are putting your lives on the lines for people like us. So I really do appreciate that, and that's why we do this. And two, please check their website. There are a lot of amazing discounts for our active service and veterans. Please make sure that you check out those discounts and see what those are out there. But I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Michael, do you have anything to add before I wrap things up?
No, thank you for trusting us. Thanks for coming on. Thank you for your service. It really means a lot to me that you agreed to do this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's going to do it for this week's show, guys. We certainly appreciate you guys for joining us this week. Like I always say, if you can dream it, you can do it. And with that being said, make sure you watch us every Tuesday at 8:30. This week's episode is long, and I love it because we got a lot of great conversation in. So make sure to look out for that on Friday, this upcoming Friday at 5 p.m., where we release our new episodes every week on your favorite podcasting platform, whether that be Spotify or Apple Podcast, or I don't know all the platforms. I'd have to go and look. But whatever platform it is where you get your podcast from, it is distributed out there, and we will have that live for you. And we definitely thank everyone for joining this week. And that being said, I think we're going to wrap things up. We hope that you all have a great week. I hope that week is filled with a lot of theme park adventures, whether that be at Disney or some other theme park. And we'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.